Welcome to the 2019 Soccer Coaches Rules Meeting. My name is Kathleen Coughlin, and I am the OHSAA Soccer Administrator. I look forward to working with you this season and in many seasons to come. Also on this presentation will be our Director of Officiating Development for the sport of soccer, Don Muntz. He will be detailing the NFHS soccer rules changes for this year. Before you go any further, if you are using a Chromebook, that is not to say Chrome as your type of internet browser, but a Chromebook, we strongly recommend that you stop and use a different device to view this presentation. If you choose to proceed while using a Chromebook, please be aware that your attendance may not be recorded or the presentation may stop midway. All users, regardless of the device that they are using while completing this presentation, should take a screenshot of the last slide. This will be proof of your completion in the event that credit is not automatically rewarded. We at the OHSAA, me in particular, will ask for that screenshot if we cannot find credit for you viewing this meeting. This meeting is required for all head soccer coaches. In association with the State Athletic Directors Association, I encourage all coaches to view this, from assistant coaches to JV coaches and even volunteer coaches. Every coach is under the same administrative regulations, so it would be a great help for you as a head coach if they are viewing it as well. The purpose of this meeting is to cover both the OHSAA administrative rules and the NFHS playing rules. In addition to the 2019 rules meeting, we have several resources that will be very beneficial to you prior to, during, and after the soccer season, and ask that you take some time to review these documents. First is the soccer manual, which covers all items mentioned in this rules meeting in an in-depth way, along with frequently asked questions. And its purpose is really to be a one-stop shop for any rules and/or regulations in the sport of soccer. Also on the soccer webpage are the 2019 general sport regulations for soccer, as well as the tournament regulations. Also posted on the soccer page are the coaches' memos. Memos are sent out to the head coach listed in MIOSHA, and will also be posted on the soccer portion of the webpage. We ask that you go ahead and transfer these to your other coaching staff members as well as the middle school staff. Please make sure to review these as they provide important information and reminders specific to the time of the year that they are sent. Lastly is the tournament information page that is on our website. This will have all necessary tournament information, including the brackets, once they are posted. Let's move on to the Pupil Activity Permit, or PAP, an item required by law in Ohio. All coaches in the state of Ohio are required to obtain this coaching permit, whether they are paid or a volunteer assistant coach. This is the first of many times you will hear this, but all volunteer coaches are treated the same as paid coaches with respect to rules and regulations. To obtain this permit, an individual must complete the 6 requirements that you see listed. 1. Hold a current and valid CPR card. 2. Complete an approved sports first aid course. 3. Complete and submit a background check. 4. Complete the NFHS Fundamentals of Coaching course. 5. Approved concussion course, which can be found on CDC or NFHS Learn. And 6, and most recently, the Sudden Cardiac Arrest Education, which is also known as Lindsay's Law. Once an individual completes these 6 requirements, application is then made to the Ohio Department of Education. The ODE will then issue the required permit, which is valid for a 3-year period. If you have any questions, please see your athletic director. They know this law well and will help you obtain the required permit. Concussions have been at the forefront of injury prevention the last few years, with concussions being the second highest of all sports in girls soccer. Prevention deservedly should be addressed. A reminder that coaches and officials continue to have the authority to remove players for exhibiting the signs or symptoms of a concussion. All required first aid training helps coaches with recognizing these symptoms. Any player that is removed from a practice or contest cannot return to participate on the same day as being removed. This is under no circumstance they can go back the same day. I really encourage you to not only look more on our website, under where you can see the home sports medicine page has more information about concussions, but also in visiting the nfhslearn.com. They have a free course called Concussion Recognition Program, and you can share this with your parents at your parent meeting. Moving on to some of the OHSAA administrative rules, coaching, tryouts, and instruction may begin on Thursday, August 1st. Most of you are viewing this in July and are eager to get started. Though you are permitted 10 days of team instruction during June and July, the first day of practice in which you can require a student athlete to attend is August 1st. Prior to the 1st, no soccer instruction or drills are permitted during weightlifting, conditioning, or open fields. Coaches may supervise these programs, but again, there can be no soccer skill or instruction taught during these programs. The official kickoff to the 2019 season is on Friday, August 16, 2019. No games can be played until this date. You will notice that again, this is the Friday before football in Ohio starts, which is why we have coined the phrase OHSAA Friday Night Football with the hashtag the only game in town. You can visit our website under the soccer tab to find out more about this night, but basically there is no charge and no lengthy forms, just simply a way to promote the high school soccer game. We also have partnered again with the Columbus Crew. They will send us tickets. We then send them on to the schools participating in this night, and you can raffle them off that night. Hopefully you will all join us to celebrate the only game in town. Let's look at a few other administrative regulations affecting you. First, let's look at scrimmages. Each sponsored team at your school is permitted 4 scrimmages, and those scrimmages can be held any time during the season, which includes during tournament time. There is no limit to the number of teams that can participate in a scrimmage. However, there is a limit of a 3-hour completion. You'll want to talk to the officials about this before you go about having multi-team scrimmages. If you participate against 2 other schools on the same day, as long as they're on the same day, it will only count as 1 scrimmage. There are also some misconceptions about previews. Hopefully this will clear some of them up. First off, admission can be charged for the preview. The main aspect of a preview is that it may only be 40 minutes or 1/2 in length. Previews are only permitted by rule to be a half of a game. If you are possibly playing against 2 opponents in the preview, the total length may still only be 40 minutes, so 20 minutes per team. Previews are designed to be a dress rehearsal, in-game uniform, although that is not mandatory. And again, admission can be charged for your overall athletic budget. In terms of practice limitations, the OHSAA does not really have a whole lot of mandates. There's no mandatory number of days for practices or tryouts, and no mandatory number of athletes on your roster, although there is an exception come tournament time on how many you can roster. I encourage you to speak with your athletic director. Go over the practices and tryout procedures and make sure that they align with the school district policy. Looking at the contest limitations, let's go over some of those now. Each player on your team has limitations defined in our soccer-specific sport regulations. First, each player is permitted to play 3 halves per day. This gives flexibility to play up or down. Though they may do this, they are only limited to 42 total halves on the year during the regular season. Please be cognizant of the penalties when this is violated, as they can be severe. First, if a player exceeds his or her halves on the day, the player is disqualified from the contest and the game continues, but the team has to play short for the remainder of the game. All the player's halves count towards his or her total for the season. If a player were to exceed to the total for the year, he or she becomes an ineligible player at that point. This is the most severe of the penalties, as the use of an ineligible player results in forfeiture of the contest. So to take that to an extreme, let's say you use an ineligible player during tournament, that would result in a forfeiture of the contest and other team moves on. The moral of the story is to track the number of halves that you are playing. Let's take a moment and look at Bylaw 9, which is contests with out-of-state schools. Although we don't see this as much in the fall as we do with winter and winter break and spring break, I do want to go over some of the general information as well as the bordering and non-bordering state information. First off, it is now permitted to scrimmage out of state. When you do this, you must classify the game or scrimmage the same as both schools, meaning on your schedule, if it says it's a game, on theirs it cannot say a scrimmage and vice versa. You also cannot travel out of state for practice only. All games must be played by the official NFHS rules and officiated by licensed officials from that state. OHSAA administrative rules also must be followed. When looking at the two categories of travel to bordering or continuous states, it is permitted unlimited number of times and you are permitted to miss school. However, on non-bordering states, this is a one-time permission per season and you are not allowed to miss any school. If you have any other questions, I encourage you to speak with your athletic director about any travel plans and upcoming trips. And if they have any questions, they can again reach out to us. When you sign a contract for a game, you agree to a few things. Some of them are listed below. You agree to the officials that will work the game. You agree to abide by all the decisions of those officials. You agree to play the game, and you agree to make up a game if it is canceled or suspended. All games are agreed upon by a formal written contract. League schedules are also considered binding agreements as well. When you agree to play a game, you are agreeing to just that, to play the game. You cannot drop an opponent midstream just because you don't want to play them, nor can you drop an opponent to make up for a league game instead. But I know this is done regularly. I've seen it. If both teams agree to not play, of course you can do that. But the opponent has to agree. You also agree to make up a suspended or canceled game, again, pending whether both teams agree not to do so or to do so. I mention this in detail because we see more and more contract disputes that come into our office. Basically, the easiest thing for us to do is say a contract is a contract. You may find it hard to believe, but entering into a contract is also an agreement with the officials hired for that contest and those decisions that are made by the officials. Sport Regulation number 7 spells out what players and coaches can and cannot do during the season. Basically, players may not try out, practice, or compete with any non-school team during the season of play. This is severe to a player in terms of the consequence as it results in the player immediately becoming ineligible. Players are permitted to receive individual instruction during the season of play, provided the school, team, and coach does not have any regulation prohibiting it. Understand that the basis of this regulation is this. We want our players to be with our coaches and not receiving dissenting opinions from other coaches on the amount of playing time they receive or the position they should be playing. We are often asked if there's any regulation that prohibits a coach from coaching a club or travel team during the season of play. The answer is no, there is not. If you can find time to do that, more power to you. These college ID camps are ones that hit soccer probably the hardest, as I know a lot of them are in August. The biggest question that you need to know the answer to is, when does a player become a member of a school team? That answer is as soon as he or she participates in a scrimmage, preview, or game for the school team. Again, when does a player become a member of a school team? It's as soon as he or she participates in a scrimmage, preview, or game for the school team. If you have any additional questions regarding when a player can or cannot go to a college ID camp or showcase, you'll want to ask your athletic director and or myself. Sport Regulation 7.3, Non-Interscholastic Play. This is a rule that references really the time that is outside of the season with the exception of June 1st to July 31st. There is a limit of 5 players that played together on the same school team on any non-interscholastic team, whether it's travel, rec, whatever that case may be. Again, that limit is 5 players. This is for out-of-season team play. It is not in effect during June 1st to July 31st. Graduating seniors will not be counted in those 5. And if a player did not play for the school team in the last season, they would also not count. Again, grades 7 through 8 are separate from grades 9 through 12, and that's an important point to remember. With regard to coaching outside of the season, first let's talk about individual instruction. This is not permitted during the no contact period, which is 28 days after the season. Again, 28 days after the season. You are then limited to coaching 4 individuals in all combined facilities. So you can't be running something in an auxiliary gym and in a varsity gym during the winter season. Weightlifting can occur at this time, but again, you're not there to be doing any soccer-specific movements. You are there to be weightlifting and kind of being there as a supervisor. Open fields are also not permitted during the no contact period, and no instruction can be given during this time. You are there simply to supervise, and you can also participate if you feel you would like to do that. Additionally, you have your 10 summer days. Those can be used during June 1st to July 31st. Again, during these summer days, you are free to coach as you please. Please make sure that you understand the rules and regulations around those summer days with the acknowledgement that it's to be your coaching staff, so you can't coach the whole team for 10 days and then have your assistant coach an additional 10 days. We always have that question at least once. Again, the purpose of this regulation is to allow coaches to provide instruction that is not permitted in open fields, to allow coaches to provide the same type of instruction outside of the season that private instructors can. And it does allow for instruction, but not a full practice because you are limited to 4 individuals. Indoor soccer is defined by 1, a game played by 2 teams, each consisting of not more than 6 players, one of whom must be a goalkeeper, and 2, it is played indoors between the end of the school soccer season and the day before the first day of coaching for the interscholastic season. Please note, the number of interscholastic soccer players from the same team on a non-interscholastic squad of an indoor soccer roster is not limited, provided that none of the interscholastic coaching staff, paid or unpaid, is coaching the indoor team. It is imperative that you alert your athletic director or principal as soon as you realize that you have a transfer student so that you can start the necessary paperwork. Please consult with your athletic director. If they meet one of the transfer exceptions, they may be able to participate right away and for the entire portion of the season as well as the tournament. However, if a student transferred, they may have to sit out the second half of the season as well as the OHSAA tournament if one of those exceptions are not met. Again, I cannot stress enough that as soon as you know that you have a transfer student playing on your team, that you get together with your athletic director and speak to them about the paperwork that is needed for their transfer student. If you are a veteran coach, you know that one of your requirements after a game is to rate to your officials. This is an important part of the tournament assignment process and now is required by the OHSAA sport regulations. Rating of officials assures the coach's input into the tournament assignment process. The process takes place on the MIOSHA system and is password protected. If you have any questions about this system and rating your officials, I encourage you to speak with your athletic director. Additionally, there is an opportunity to vote for officials. This is given to athletic directors, officials association secretaries, district athletic board members, assigners, and OHSAA administrative staff. I encourage you again to speak with your athletic directors so that they can vote consistently with who you have rated. After the first half in regular contests for grades 7 through 12, anytime the score differential reaches 6 goals or more, a running clock shall be used. After the 6-goal differential has been met, but the score drops below 6 goals, the clock reverts back to regular timing. Below is an example of a PA announcement. I recommend keeping this on hand for your scoreboard operator as well as your announcer to have during the contests. This is the Wilson ball that will be used during regional and state tournament. Although you are free to use a different ball during the regular season, we obviously promote this ball as it will be used, and for consistency's sake, you can get used to this during the regular season if you see fit. It's important for me to review a few things about ejections since the numbers continue to rise across the board in all sports. My hope is that this trend will start to go down. However, let's go through some of the essentials. The number one thing that you are to know is that appeals are not granted. Again, appeals for ejections are not granted. Officials are given the authority to make calls as they judge during the course of the contest. Their decisions, even in the event of an unfortunate ejection, are final. They cannot be appealed. So if an unfortunate ejection comes your way, your school will receive notice from our office and the appeal is not going to be heard on the ejection. So what happens when these ejections happen? First, let's go over the player. When a player is ejected, he or she is to remain on the bench under the supervision of a coach or school administrator. The last thing we want is for an ejected player running off to a locker room, school, or bus. They are to be supervised. They are also ineligible for any contest the remainder of the day. For example, if they are ejected during a JV contest, they are ineligible for the other contests that day, such as a varsity game. They are also ineligible for all contests until 2 at the level of the ejection have been played. During this time, they are able to sit and travel with the team. They are able to be in the locker room with the team. However, they may not wear any warm-up or uniform, and they may not participate in the warm-up. When a coach is ejected, if a coach is ejected, they have to leave the facility. They will also be ineligible to coach any other contests for the remainder of the day of the ejection and also ineligible to coach in games until 2 games at the level of the ejection have taken place. Any ejected coach may not sit with the team, may not be in the locker room prior to or during or after the game. They may sit in the stands but cannot give instruction. Again, so there shouldn't be texting happening from the stands to your assistant coaches while you have been ejected. That's something that we've seen and we've had to deal with here. So when we say you're done coaching for that time period, you are done coaching. You'll also have to pay the $100 fine to the OHSAA, and you will complete the NFHS rules course, which I believe is called Teaching and Modeling Behavior. And that is found on the NFHS website. We have to cover this topic, and that is no matter how unfair you think it might be, no matter how lopsided you think the officiating is, don't ever take your team off the field and go home. This will earn you a quick trip to the OHSAA offices and have to meet with our executive director, Jerry Snodgrass, and a lengthy suspension. And as a quick reminder, as media coverage and social websites continue to put more and more focus on high school teams, think first before lashing out at an official's poor call. OHSAA regulations prohibit negative comments and any public criticism of officials to the media. That includes social media. Please remind your players, think before you go off on a call that you think would have made the difference in the contest. When dealing with inclement weather, our #1 priority is safety. Any lightning seen or thunder heard will go into the 30-minute rule. We will evacuate the field and take cover for at least 30 minutes after the last thunder is heard or lightning is seen. However, this year, there's a new rule which has that asterisk, and I will read it. At night, under certain atmospheric conditions, lightning flashes may be seen from a distant storm. In these cases, it may be safe to continue. If no thunder can be heard and the flashes are low on the horizon, the storm may not pose a threat. Independently verified lightning detection information would help eliminate any uncertainty. This can be done with both coaches, with an athletic administrator, or whoever is overseeing the game, and the help of the officials. We encourage a lot of communication during this time. When lightning detection devices or mobile phone apps are available, this technology could be used to assist in making a decision to suspend play. Never depend on this technology. If thunder is heard and lightning is seen, those take precedence. Again, you will work with your officials to figure out the best course of action. However, half times may be shortened or eliminated. Also, all players and coaches must be off the field during the suspension. What I recommend to you is before the season even starts is to have a plan of attack when this does happen. So you will know where to go, whether you are home or away, and you will have a coach assigned to take the team into the locker room so that you can meet with the officials and figure out the course of action. Again, we don't want players to start lurching out with maybe 8 minutes left, hoping that they can get some touches in. We will allow for that, but what we need you and your coaching staff to do is keep all players safe, and that means off the field during the time of the suspension. So now let's look at what happens when some event, such as lightning, causes a game to stop and the circumstances do not permit the resuming of play that day. If the suspension of play takes place before the first half is complete, the game resumes from the exact point of interruption, time on the clock, players currently in the game, and any players that have been suspended or disqualified continue as such when play resumes. This is easy enough, just make sure that someone keeps track of all the necessary facts. You may not have the same officiating crew when you complete the game on another day, so you'll want to make sure that the coaches have met and have discussed and made records. And now, the part that is often so confusing. If the first half is completed and play is suspended, the game is considered a complete game and the score at that point is the final score. It does not matter if this was a big rivalry game, the league championship, or whatever. If a complete half has been played and play is suspended and cannot be finished that day, the game is considered over. An important reminder that I do want to provide is one relative to the administration and management of a contest. As you know, being a head coach entails so many responsibilities beyond simply coaching. Sometimes overlooked is the fact that our regulations require someone to be responsible for the contest itself, even if it is a JV or junior high game. Oftentimes, especially in sub-varsity games, that someone is the coach. We have made a point to remind coaches and athletic directors of this responsibility. These responsibilities include safeguarding officials before, during, and after a contest, dealing with unruly fans, managing medical emergencies, and coordinating inclement weather crisis management. I really encourage you to speak with your JV or sub-varsity coaching staffs to review these items, especially because a lot of our JV teams are playing at fields not necessarily by the school, so you will want to take some extra time to review these items with them. While this field diagram is rather small, you can download this on the NFHS rules book and talk to your athletic director about the necessary field setup and who is responsible for what. Additionally, I would speak to your athletic director about making sure that the only people that are down and around the field during game time are necessary personnel. This will cut down on any confusion on the sidelines. Additionally, one point of emphasis would be that 10-foot recommended distance around the field between the touch lines, the goal lines, and any bench or other obstruction. This has safety in mind, and all attempts should be made to comply with it, especially around the bench area. The OHSAA is made up of 6 athletic districts, with each district electing 9 representatives to a district athletic board. The function of the DAB, as it is known, is to set up and organize the sectional and district tournaments in their respective districts. The number of teams in a division in a district determines how many teams are permitted to qualify for the regional tournament. This explains why Northwest receives more Division III regional qualifiers than the Southeast District. There are simply more Division III teams in the Northwest than there are in the Southeast. The OHSAA staff directly coordinates the regional and state tournaments, but all levels are conducted under a set of adopted tournament regulations, and again, those can be found under the soccer portion of the OHSAA website. As the stakes get higher, there are more and more misconceptions about our tournaments. The OHSAA's mission statement indicates that we are to regulate and administer interscholastic athletic competition in a fair and equitable manner. So, what exactly does that mean? Or better yet, what does it not mean? The OHSAA has determined that the distance a team travels for a tournament contest is not a competitive balance issue. In other words, if one team drives an hour and 45 minutes to a regional tournament and the other drives 40 minutes, there is nothing about that is a competitive advantage. Fans actually tend to get more caught up in this than coaches do as they prepare their teams to simply go and play the game. There are many factors that enter into where a game is played, and though everything is done to minimize travel, there are many other factors that play a role. In addition, there is no regulation that limits the number of times a team plays on a tournament site. Why? Because agree or disagree, the number of times a team plays on a field is not determined to be an advantage for a team. And teams are permitted to play on home sites at the sectional and district level. Yes, there might be familiarity, but it is not deemed a competitive advantage. Regional sites are still neutral sites by regulation, and neutral sites simply means it is not the home field for a team. Natural grass versus artificial, there is no regulation, as it's not always possible to play a game on artificial surfaces. And of course, though it's among the best anywhere, the finals are played on natural grass. I want to encourage you to become a member of the Ohio Scholastic Soccer Coaches Association. It's one of the most active coaches association that the OHSAA works with. In addition to providing scholarships, the OSSCA selects and honors all state and all district selection for both boys and girls. A coach must be a member of the organization to nominate players from their school, so that alone would provide an excellent reason to join. The OSSCA represents you at the monthly OHSAA meetings, and they are your voice to the OHSAA. Although there are no true uniform changes for this season, I thought it might be a good idea to refresh our memories with 4 below. In case you are ordering new uniforms, I encourage you to again talk to your athletic director and look at the detailed rules. Those can be found on NFHS's website as well as on the OHSAA website under the soccer tab. We do have a detailed information about the uniforms, but again, these are just 4 reminders that we thought would be helpful for you. At this point, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Don Muntz. He is going to walk you through the most significant changes for this year. And if you guys have any questions, please again feel free to reach out to myself. If you have something specific with a rule or with officiating, again, you can reach out to me, but most likely I will be reaching out to our expert, and that is Don. Thanks.
Soccer rules book correction from the NFHS. This is a correction. We removed the word opposing from 2 portions of this rule. This is how the rule should read. If the ball becomes deflated during play, it is declared dead where it was last played, and the game is resumed by a drop ball between any number of players at the spot where it was last played. If the ball becomes deflated within the goal area, then the ball is dropped between any number of players subject to the provisions of Rule 922. NFHS soccer rules changes. Something so harmless has been an unnecessary source of referee-coach friction for years. Beginning this year, knotted PREWRAP is legal. Knotted PREWRAP must be worn around the head, must be worn to control hair, or must be worn to prevent sweat on the face. 4.2.2 Situation A from this year. During pregame warm-up, the referee observes that A6 is wearing knotted PREWRAP wrapped around the head. Ruling: legal if worn to control the player's hair or to prevent sweat on the face. Legal knotted PREWRAP. Here the PREWRAP has been rolled into a legal headband for hair control or sweat absorption. Illegal and improper equipment. Coaches should check players before the match. Have a team rule: no jewelry. Wear proper shin guards. Properly positioned. Jerseys should be tucked in. Let's look sharp. Coaches should let the players know that there will be consequences for illegal or improper equipment and follow through on those consequences. Coaches should enforce these team rules daily at practice. As you practice, so do you play. During warm-ups, players can wear items not permitted during the match. They can be without shin guards. They can wear jewelry. This is the head coach's responsibility. The 4.3 and 522D4 questions pertain to being legally and properly attired and equipped at the kickoff. 2013 National Federation Guide, Pregame Equipment Question Adjusted. For years, referees were asking about pregame equipment in the current tense, and coaches were giving an answer in the future tense. An editorial change corrects the issue. When referees ask the question, are your players properly and legally equipped, the expected response was yes, but they often had on t-shirts, warm-ups, no shin guards, etc. Instead, the text change will suggest the referee inquire of each head coach whether each of his or her players will be properly and legally equipped at the kickoff. That is a time when enforcement and penalties take place, so it is the right inquiry. Pregame responsibilities, Rule 522D4. Inquire of each head coach whether each of his or her players will be properly and legally equipped at the kickoff. Illegal equipment penalty only applies to a player. Check out the definition in National Federation 1811 GG. The player must have illegal equipment. Card the coach for first instance of illegal equipment. Card only the player if second or subsequent offense. Remember, if there is a sub, no card to anyone. Just require removal of the offending equipment. Same with improper equipment on a sub. Only with a player does a card come. Carefully review the definition of player. Improperly equipped. Cautions will not be issued for improperly equipped players. If not immediately correctable, improperly equipped players shall be instructed to leave the field of play when the ball next ceases to be in play. The players may be replaced. The removed players, if not replaced, may re-enter at the next dead ball only after reporting to an official, who shall be satisfied the player's equipment and uniform are in order. Play shall not be stopped for an infringement of this rule, except that the referee may stop play immediately where there is a dangerous situation. The rationale for this rule. This rule's change corrects an injustice. For the far more serious infringement of illegal equipment, the offending team does not play shorthanded. For the less serious offense of improper equipment, they are required to play shorthanded. The change addresses this inequity. Improperly equipped. An improperly equipped player is wearing legal equipment that is being worn incorrectly or becomes illegal during play. Handling improper equipment. Again, prevent it wherever possible, whether player or sub. Stop play right away only for an immediate dangerous situation. Otherwise, wait for a natural stoppage. Have the player correct on the field wherever possible. If not, the player may be subbed for from the bench. There are no other subs by either team at this time. If there is no sub, the player can return at the next dead ball after inspection. Substitutions. New 3.4.3 and 7.4.3. Rules on substitutions in the last 5 minutes of a match. The clock shall be stopped when a substitute by the team in the lead is beckoned onto the field in the final 5 minutes of the second period. The Ohio Mercy Rule trumps new rules 3.4.3 and 7.4.3, which are regular timing rules. The Mercy Rule supersedes regular timing rules. There is no overtime stoppage under these new rules. Ohio postseason tournament overtimes are golden goal. A sub for the leading team is beckoned with 5:05 remaining in the second half, but the clock continues to run during the substitution procedure. The ball is not put back into play until 4:45 remains. This is correct procedure. For the clock to stop, there must be less than 5 minutes when the sub is beckoned on. In the last 5 minutes, if the match is tied, either or both teams subs, the clock does not stop. Likewise, any time the trailing team only subs, the clock does not stop. In the last 5 minutes, only the leading team subs. The clock is stopped when the referee beckons on those subs. The clock restarts only after all subs are completed. The referee gives the second whistle and the ball is properly put back into play. In the last 5 minutes, where the leading and the trailing team sub, the clock is stopped when the referee beckons on the subs. The clock restarts only after all subs by both teams are completed. The referee gives a second whistle and the ball is properly put back into play. The head referee must have a pre-match with the official timer. The first two rules you see indicate that. This year, the official timer has to audibly note 2 minutes before halftime or full time, and also audibly note when there are 2 minutes left during the halftime interval. So we have to get with them and make sure that they don't use a horn or a whistle, that they just audibly, with their voice, note those 2 times. The dropped ball. The game is restarted with a drop ball when the ball is caused to go out of bounds by 2 opponents simultaneously. When the ball becomes deflated. Following temporary suspension of play for an injury or unusual situation, and a goalkeeper is not in possession of the ball within their own penalty area. Or when simultaneous fouls of the same degree are committed by opponents. Goalkeeper possession. A goalkeeper can possess the ball in 2 ways, with the hands or as a field player would possess the ball. Let's look at the hands first. Look at NF 1242A. The goalkeeper must be in their own penalty area, and with one or both hands, the goalkeeper has the ball in their hands, or traps the ball against themselves, a teammate, the ground, the referee, or the goal. The goalkeeper does not have possession if the ball is trapped against an opponent. The goalkeeper has possession where bouncing the ball or throwing it into the air to catch it. This is known as an air dribble. The goalkeeper has possession while releasing it into play, a drop kick, a punt, a throw, or a roll. Goalkeeper possession as a field player, again, must be in their own penalty area. NF 1811 II defines possession. The ball, controlled by the goalkeeper, may be passed, thrown, dribbled, or shot on goal. 1811 HH defines playing distance. The distance between the goalkeeper and the ball, adequate for control. It will seldom exceed 2 steps or 6 feet. Goalkeeper possession. Remember, possession, hand or feet, must be within the goalkeeper's own penalty area. Be reasonable about goalkeeper possession. Always err on the side of goalkeeper possession to avoid unmerited drop balls within the penalty area. The top 2 slides. On the left, the goalkeeper is in possession at the time of the stoppage for an injury. The goalkeeper's team receives an indirect free kick. The bottom 2 slides. A field player is in possession of the ball when a teammate is injured. There's a stoppage. A restart is a drop ball. Normally, the ball is dropped where it became dead. There are 2 special situations where this does not occur. The first is in the case of a deflated ball, Rule 224. In this case, the ball is dropped at the spot where it was last played. 1417 concerning penalty kicks. If after the penalty kick is taken and before it touches another player or the goal, there's an unusual situation, the penalty kick is retaken. If the ball is in the goal area when play is stopped, it is dropped on the goal area line parallel to the goal line, nearest the location of the ball when play was stopped. If the ball goes out of play due to simultaneous contact by opponents, the ball is dropped 5 yards inside of the boundary line, nearest where the ball was when it went out of play. The drop ball. On the left, a one-player drop ball is permissible. On the right, multiple players are permissible. Any number of players may contest a drop ball, including both goalkeepers. Drop ball procedure. Ball is dropped by an official from waist level between any number of players. Players may be anywhere but must not interfere with the drop ball procedure. The ball cannot be touched until it has hit the ground. The ball is in play when it does hit the ground. The double touch rule does not apply to drop balls. 1997 National Federation Rules Test, Part 1, Question 41. Player A, participating in a drop ball, plays the ball twice after it touches the ground, but before it is played or touched by another player. The referee allows play to continue. Answer, true. The drop ball is repeated if it touches the player before it touches the ground, as in the slide on the left, or it leaves the field of play before it is touched, as in the slide on the right. If a drop ball enters the goal without touching at least 2 players, play is restarted with a goal kick if it enters the opponent's goal, or a corner kick if it enters the team's own goal, depending on which player touched the ball last. A goal cannot be scored directly from a drop ball. The ball must touch at least 2 players before entering the goal. On the left, the attacking player takes the ball directly from a drop, kicks it directly into the goal. The restart is a goal kick for the goalkeeper's team. On the right, a defender takes the ball directly from a drop ball, kicks it directly into her defensive goal. The restart is a corner kick for the attacking team. To goal or not to goal? That is the question. A drop ball is a form of indirect free kick. Remember that, you can't go wrong. An authorized representative of the host school shall greet the officials upon their arrival. The host school principal, principal's designee, or game administrator must indicate to the head official or center referee his or her location should a situation develop where his or her assistance is needed during a contest. The contest coaches should not serve as the principal's designee or game administrator. The expectation is that the principal's designee or game administrator will take action to maintain an atmosphere of good sportsmanship within the spectator area. Pre-game communication between the school administration and game officials. The site administrator should indicate his or her general location for the contest so that the referees know where to look if there is a need. Communicating misconduct to coaches. NFHS Rule 5.3 states that game officials shall communicate the nature of misconduct to coaches, the scorer, and other officials when a yellow or red card has been issued. This communication is a notification and not an explanation. It is not intended to be an opportunity for the coach to discuss or dissent the call. It is, however, an educational opportunity for the coach to address and or correct the behavior of the carded individual. Officials communicating misconduct to coaches. The referee shall communicate the nature of the misconduct to coaches, the scorer, and other officials when a red or yellow card is issued. It is important to note that interscholastic athletics are an extension of the classroom, and the behavior of all involved should reflect such. Coaches and officials are expected to model good sportsmanship and to uphold the honor and dignity of their professions. This includes all interactions with student athletes, other coaches and officials, school administration, and spectators. OSHA thanks you for all that you do for the student athletes. Let's keep sportsmanship first.
You have now completed the 2019 soccer rules meeting. Please take a moment and take a screenshot of this page. Check your OHSAA profile to ensure that you have received credit. You can do this by yourself on MyOSHA, or you can also ask your athletic director to check and make sure that you have received credit. If there are any issues with receiving credit, please reach out to me and I can help navigate and troubleshoot. Over and over again in this presentation, I have mentioned reaching out to your athletic director and or myself. Please maintain great communication throughout the season with your athletic director. The teamwork between you and your staff and your athletic director is critical for a successful season. Best of luck this season, and I look forward to a great soccer season.